Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Liz and in today's video I have some blue themed farmhouse DIYs for you, so let's jump on in. For this first one, you're going to grab one of these signs from the Dollar Tree. I like this one in particular because you can remove that frame from it. Then you're not having to take out your painter's tape and try to tape everything up, or you're not having to try to make your own frames. So that is why I like these signs. And then I was going to try to remove all the glitter from the front and the paper was just kind of peeling off. So I went ahead and removed it all, and underneath wasn't really the texture that I was looking for, so I decided to just turn it around to the back and use the back side. I just removed those staples that were in the back, and I'm going to go in with my Waverly chalk paint in white. I'm going to go ahead and do one good coat of this. I didn't go all the way around the edges just because that frame was going to be covering that up. I wasn't too worried about getting all the edges completely covered. Now I cut out this decal for my Cricut design space. I just went into the images section and typed in the word tile and found this cute design. I just duplicated it 6 times and welded them all together to make one big piece. Now I'm just going to use this as a stencil. So I'm going to go through and weed it the opposite way, taking out all the pieces that you would normally leave in. Now I'm going to use my Expressions vinyl transfer tape. I always get questions about this whenever I use it, so it will be linked in the description box below. Now, a little trick that I like to do whenever I'm using my vinyl and I have a larger piece like this with so many different pieces to it, I want to make sure that I get this on my sign just right without messing up and having it stick down to it when I don't want it to. So I'm going to take a piece of wax paper. I'm going to lay my decal on top of that wax paper, leaving just a hair of that vinyl off of the wax paper so that there is just a little bit of stickiness to it, so when you get it where you want it, you can just stick that portion down, remove that wax paper, and then lay the rest of your decal on your sign. This allows you to move your decal around without it all sticking down. I like to be able to get it just where I want it before I stick everything down. Then once I got that on there, I am just going to remove that transfer tape and I am going to begin stenciling. I'm going to use this apple barrel paint called Admiral Blue, and that's what I'm going to use to go over my sign, and then use this stencil brush to do light layers all over the stencil. When you're stenciling like this, you want to make sure that you're doing up and down motions. Like I said, with just some light layers. I do go over it about twice because I don't want so much paint on there all at once to potentially leak or bleed underneath the stencil itself. So I just made sure to take my time, do those up and down dabbing motions, and then I will start removing that stencil. So I'm just going to take my weeding tool from my Cricut and I'm going to begin removing the vinyl from it. The paint does make the vinyl rip apart pretty easy, so this kind of is a lengthy process, but I think it's so satisfying to watch it all come together. So I just went through and used that weeding tool to peel off all the vinyl from my sign. Once I've got all my vinyl removed, I'm going to go ahead and glue that frame back down to my sign. I just took some wood glue, hot glue. I do get questions about this as well, so that is going to be linked in my description box as well. Any kind of tools or anything that I mention is typically linked down there if you want to take a look, if you're ever interested in what I'm using. And this is how this sign turned out. I think it is so cute. I've seen a lot of bathroom tile looking like this, or even kitchen kitchen backsplash tile, and I always think it's absolutely gorgeous. So that was my inspiration for this piece, and it is by far one of my favorites.
It's a known fact. Yeah, I know that.
For this DIY, I'm going to take my Art Minds chalk paint in indigo, and I have these two pieces of scrap wood that my husband cut out for me. He just cut an angle at the top to make them look like little houses. Now there are shapes like this that you can get at the Dollar Tree. They're little house wood pieces. I didn't have any of those on hand, so I just grabbed some scrap wood and used those. So I am going to paint one of my little houses all the way. The entire thing is going to be painted in this color, and then the other one I'm going to paint the entire thing besides the front. I am going to put some scrap paper on the front, so I wasn't worried about getting full coverage on that. No need to paint something that you're going to end up covering up anyways. Now once everything is painted and nice and dry, I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to hit all the edges of the houses. I wanted them to look distressed and weathered, and I wanted that natural wood to peek through on all those edges. So I just went over it with sandpaper until you could see that natural wood come through. And then after I've got it all sanded down the way that I liked it, I'm going to take a baby wipe and just wipe it all down, clean it up, and then I also use it to do a little bit of wet distressing on some of it as well. Now I'm going to take this scrapbook paper that I got in a pack from Hobby Lobby. I believe it's called their Farmhouse pack, and I'm going to take one of the houses, trace it out, and cut that scrapbook paper out. I'm going to use a glue stick to attach that scrapbook paper down to it. While that is drying, I am going to move on to my second house. I'm going to take these wood beads that I got from Amazon, and I'm also going to take some wire, and then I attached it to some of this baker's twine that I got from the Dollar Tree. I was having a different image of how I wanted it to be, and I didn't end up going with it anyway, so you don't necessarily need to do this. Just string your beads on a piece of wire, and then when you get as many beads as you want on there, you're just going to fold it into a circle, twist the wire together till that is nice and sturdy, and those beads aren't going to come off. You can cut the excess wire off with some wire cutters. Now I'm going to make a bow using that baker's twine. What I'm going to do is just wrap that twine around my fingers several times until I get the thickness of it that I want. I'm going to cut off that excess string, and then I'm going to take another piece of that string, wrap it around the middle, and tie a double knot. This is super easy to do, and I think these bows turn out cute every single time. There's really no way to mess this up. It's one of my favorite ways to decorate all of my DIYs. So now I'm going to take some floral that I got from Hobby Lobby. I'm just going to cut two little pieces off of there. I'm going to start by hot gluing my little beaded wreath down to the top of my house. I'm going to take those two greenery pieces and I'm going to start hot gluing those down to the top middle of that wreath. And then to finish it off, I'm just going to add some hot glue to my bow and hot glue that right to the top of my wreath, covering up those two greenery stems. I'm just going to trim off my twine, and that is it for that little house. Now moving on to the next one, I'm going to go around using my sandpaper to get off all the excess scrapbook paper that's hanging over the edge of the house. Plus I wanted that scrapbook paper to have more of a distressed look to it, and I think sandpapering it like this does a fantastic job. So I'm just going to go through to all the edges and make sure that all that excess is off of there. Now I'm going to take my Waverly wax in Antique, and I'm just going to lightly hit all of those edges, and then I use my finger to rub it in. This is just giving it a little bit more of an antique look to it, and then I also go around and do the same thing to the other house. Now I'm going to take this twine that I got from burlapfabric.com. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around my house about 3 times, and then I'm going to tie it in a double knot on the front. I am going to use some painter's tape to tape those two pieces of twine together so that I can string some beads through both of those two pieces. I'm going to add about 4 beads in total to the twine, and then to tie it off, I'll just tie a knot at the bottom, cut off the excess twine, and then that is it for my little houses. DIY, you're going to take a stretched canvas that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I already went ahead and removed the canvas from the frame, and I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint and plaster, and I'm just going to lightly go over this. I mostly just did a heavy dry brushing technique to it, just to give it that color of the plaster, but then still allow some of that natural wood to peek through. So I'm just going to do that over the entire frame. So once I've got that all dry, I'm going to take some scrapbook paper. I got this paper pack from Joann's. It has a really pretty blue shiplap design in there, and I'm going to take that. I am going to take my frame and trace around the back of it. I'm going to cut that paper out, and then I'm going to start hot gluing the paper to the back of my frame. And I mostly just did the corners when I did this. I wasn't worried about going around all of the sides because later on I will be stapling it down as well. I'm going to take that canvas that I removed from the frame earlier. I'm just going to trim down the sides, and then I'm going to attach that to the back as well. This is going to give it a nice finished look, and then as well it's going to give it a little bit more sturdiness so you can't just poke a hole through the back, so then your paper isn't getting ruined. So I'm just going to start by hot gluing it, and then I will use my staple gun that I got from Amazon, and I'm just going to use that to put some staples in each side just to give it a little bit more security so that it does not come apart from the hot glue. So I'm going to take one of these windmills that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I picked some of these up last year during that spring season. I actually had to go to a different state to find them. But I am going to remove the windmill from the welcome sign. I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in Silver Lining and Elephant, and I'm going to start giving this a galvanized look. I just start with the shade Elephant, and I'm just doing kind of a dabbing motion up and down just everywhere on that windmill. And then I'm going to take one of these natural sponges with the shade Silver Lining. I'm going to dab my sponge into the paint, dab off the majority of it, and then start going over the windmill with that as well. And then I will go back over it with the elephant on top of the Silver Lining color. So you just want to kind of go back and forth until you get the desired look. Now I'm going to take some super glue because hot glue really does not work with these metal windmills. It just is going to pop right off. So I just took some super glue to attach that to my sign. And then I just made this Love Lives Here design with my Cricut. I will leave a free printable down in the description box below if you're interested in it, or if you have a Cricut, I will also have a link to it in Design Space. So I'm just going to go through and weed out my design, and then again I'm going to use my Expressions Vinyl Clear Transfer Tape. The nice thing about this is it does come in a 6-inch and a 12-inch roll, so when you're doing smaller projects like this you're not wasting a ton of transfer tape, so that is another reason why I really like their transfer tape. So I'm just going to cut that out and then stick it right at the bottom of this sign, adhere the decal to the paper, and then I'm going to remove that transfer tape, and that is it for this super cute windmill sign.
Inside the noise, I can feel you. Once you've seen all the things, all the places, I hope it means that you'll come home to me. Once you've traveled the world, all the spaces inside your heart.
And that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I have been seeing so many fun blue pieces all around in the crafting and decor stores, so that is what really inspired me for today's video. That navy blue is just gorgeous in my opinion, so let me know which your favorite project was in the comments down below, and let me know what color you're gonna start decorating with for the upcoming spring and summer season. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!
You're the traveling kind, it's a known fact.